This is a base I built earlier. So this is our iron. This is the metal tier of base. So this will offer you the most defense. One thing I also did want to mention, because I was mentioning the collection of mutant leather, that's used to upgrade the totem. Aside from kind of making sure that you're upkeeping, the totem has a system where once it's upgraded to a certain level, you can transfer energy into it and it'll create a area of your base, so kind of applies a shield on the foundations as well as other construction pieces of your base and protects them,
Mhm.
so it buffs the health points of your base. That'll help you with not only sieges but also PvP.
Also see there's a lot of boards on these windows. Does that just give the walls extra health here?
Yep, so it'll not only just be extra health, but it'll be something where you can shoot through it. So if we had a better weapon, we don't have to worry about other players jumping in or mutants throwing stuff through it, because one of the biggest things with sieges that you'll see is during a siege, one of the most important mutants to kind of make sure you're going through are the ones that are the trophy collectors, because they do the most amount of damage to the building pieces at the moment. We're still tuning the game in general, kind of the balancing in that. So definitely something you're going to be seeing a lot of different aspects in. And I just started the siege.
Yeah, I noticed. Oh, they're coming from the north.
I'll get you some pistols.
Oh, look at these guys. They're kind of angry now.
Oh, that's a very crunchy headshot sound.
Is that a headshot or am I me chewing on apples?
So I dropped a pistol for you guys. I'll also drop a shotgun.
Pistol! That's loads of bullets. Should I kind of pick it up?
Ooh, what's the big guy?
So
Is
big
that
guy is
the...
Big Bob. That is one of the most powerful mutants that we actually have
Oh
at the moment.
boy.
That's the big guy that you want to worry about. He'll be featured in quite a few of the dungeons as well, so you want to make sure you're keeping an eye on him at all times.
And he has so much HP. Oh, and he disappeared.
So one of the bugs that we ran into is shooting the enemies right now will actually destroy their body depending on the damage. That's been fixed on our end, so one of the funny bugs that come up throughout development. Definitely not the funnest or funniest one we've encountered, but definitely could share a few with you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great. So what was the weirdest one I guess you found?
Oh, so there's the two weirdest ones would definitely be giant arrows or giant thrown weapons. Early on in development, we actually had an issue where when you were moving throughout the world and you just finished shooting someone with a bunch of arrows or just finished shooting some mutants with arrows, if you left the area and you came back, they would appear in the world, but they'd be giant. So like I'm talking about like 5 to 10 times the size that they would normally be. So right now, this is one of the best ways to get rye, which is the currency. So while we're going throughout and looting the
Oh,
bodies, we'll make our way back to the Thorcon and start purchasing some clothing, because we're just running around with shorts
not
on in our
much.
fanny packs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
how
a
do you know if
container.
the siege is over? I assume when
So
the
you'll
smoke's
notice.
gone?
Yep. So you'll notice that the smoke plumes go from red to white or gray. When they go gray, siege the sieges kind of pause. The wave is over, but the siege itself isn't over. Once another wave spawns, what will happen is the smoke plumes will go back. You'll hear that howling sound, and you'll know that the stuff is resumed, because we did want to give players some time to actually be able to go around and kind of not only loot but harvest and kind of repair the base while they're going through. Because you'll notice once we're done with the end of this, you'll notice that our base is taking a large amount of damage. This is not the highest difficulty of the siege. I know last time I played on a stream, I actually made it way too difficult, and the base actually got destroyed within a minute. So that's been tuned down to kind of showcase uh, what we have so far, and there's definitely going to be a lot of tuning and a lot of plans coming in to kind of change what you're seeing right now for the better.
How do we get health back? Just by bandaging, or would it
Yep.
also happen
So
over time?
right now, what the main thing? Oh, there's a boar inside our base. What you want to do is like the first tier, you have just the initial bandages. There's higher tier bandages that heal more, but if you come inside, um, I'll show you the crafting bench. There's actually medical kits as well. You will find these throughout the world, but you're also able to craft them. And another thing as well too is we also have access to the antibiotic shots, which are useful for getting rid of the toxicity. Here, the crafting bench is right here, so if you want to grab some medical kits.
I really don't like that totem, right?
I'm guessing they will go for that, as it's the
So
heart
that-
of the base.
Yep, so that's the heart of the base. Right now it's a little tuned too high for them attracting to it. That's being adjusted by the time we hit early access, and there's going to be a lot of stuff to kind of prevent them from kind of just focusing a little bit too much on that. But what'll happen is once they breach the base, what they'll do is they'll start destroying anything that's in their path. So if you put a crafting bench up in front of the door, they'd break through that and then make their way through the totem. The way we've designed it currently is they won't completely destroy your totem. What they'll do is they'll breach your base, they'll get it to a certain health percentage, and then they'll stick around. So it'll say mutants have taken over your claim. You do have the option to kind of go in and kind of kill them and kind of repair. It's not too bad of a issue when it's a PvE base, but obviously when it comes to PvP, that's a different story. PvP sieges are a little bit more crucial because if mutants are breaching your base and creating ways for other players to kind of come in and kind of take over different spots of your base, that you definitely need to make sure that you're building in a certain way to kind of avoid that from happening.
How many ways does a siege have?
So this
There's-
is like a medium size, so this will probably be between 4 and 5. Right now, they're kind of being spawned a little bit staggered. That's going to be changed, so it's going to be a little bit different, so they'll be a little bit quicker. But generally, what determines the wave difficulty and the amount of waves is tied to your totem's tech level. So each thing that you're building contributes to that. So metal pieces are weighed higher. So you'll get more difficult sieges, you'll get more difficult enemies, and you'll also get higher waves, so more waves spawning.
So how do they currently prioritize what they go for? Because most of them seem to go for the doors, but then sometimes they also go for the player. Or is it only when you hit them?
So right now, the way it currently is so if you're blocking their path, they'll focus more on you. They'll focus on breached areas of the base. They'll focus on doors, which is why typically you'll see them at those entrances. So we're still tweaking with the priority system. So that's going to be one of the major things that changes upcoming to kind of make sure they're not all just funneling in the same places and kind of focusing on the same things. Especially since there is different systems that we're going to be adding in that will be for base defense. We have barricades, we have other stuff, so there's going to be a lot to factor in with kind of having these mutants focusing on different areas.
The pistol is so much better than the bow from before. I guess it should be, I suppose, but
Yeah, so some of the values of the combat have been tweaked on our end. Same with actual loot of the mutants. So next update, they're going to be dropping better quality stuff, kind of just other resources that you're going to be using to kind of contribute to higher tiered items.
But is there also a way to, like, there's a lot of bodies right now, right? And if we left those, there would be cannibals that would show up. Is there a way to get rid of this many at once, or do you really have to go individually?
So right now it's individually. We're kind of talking on ways to kind of improve that. One of the suggestions that we've gotten, where if there's like a pile, instead of just being able to do it one by one, you'd be able to do it in piles. But it's something we're definitely looking at, and I think we're going to come up with something that is not only interesting but also efficient. Because it would be a lot of work to kind of go around and harvest all of this or start going up and doing a lot of different like cleaning up this whole base, especially at higher waves, would be a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and I see especially before igniting them, you also have to loot them.
Yep, so you're given, so before what would happen is you'd actually light them, and because they're on fire, it wouldn't give you access to their inventory. We've changed that, but one option to ignite them as well is to actually smack them. So it's not just hold F to ignite. You can actually just smack them once or twice to be able to ignite them faster. I prefer to smack them as well.
So what other features are you guys planning to add during the early access stage?
So the biggest ones is definitely going to be a lot more in-depth quests. I mentioned a few earlier, as well as like so base decorations, farming, fishing, deeper crafting and harvesting, kind of rehaul. Similar to what I mentioned earlier, we're going to offer more options to the foliage system, so not just having each plant give you fiber, each one's giving you specific things that you want to go for. Um, Improved tree harvesting, where you're actually felling the trees and being able to kind of do more with that. We're considering different types of wood. That was one thing we were talking about. But aside from those, we're adding in a lot of collectibles, rare items, journals, a lot of exploration stuff for a lot of people who like to kind of venture in and go out throughout the world. One of the big things as well is kind of the NPC settlements, to actually allow players to kind of work towards something and invest in a system that they can kind of contribute to, kind of it be also a hub where they'd get access to additional quests, unique crafting recipes, as well as some other stuff we have planned.
It's a pretty good amount for just an early access.
Yep, I mean one of the main things that we wanted to do last year before we got into the Kickstarter is kind of have a majority of the foundation stuff. So we were one of the few Kickstarters that had like a solid kind of foundation already in place, not just stuff that we were like, oh, like this is planned, this is planned. We wanted to make sure that we had kind of the major systems that we have, so that by the time we hit early access, we can kind of get more content out, get more custom stuff, get more stuff to engage the players and kind of keep them interested instead of just introducing major systems over time. We wanted to be in as much of a good position as possible.
It's probably a better way of looking at it as well. I feel like a lot of Kickstarters just over-promise and then under-deliver a lot of the time.
Yeah, that was one of our major concerns. I mean, a lot of us are core survival gamers in general, so it's like we've been there, we've seen those projects, and then not seeing them come to fruition is actually like really hard, especially when you become invested into a project. So it's like making sure that we have that core foundation in place, making sure those core systems are working properly, and kind of making sure that when we get to early access and beyond, is kind of having the best player experience that we can offer.
Wait, so it says our bases should not be attacked, but they're still attacking, right?
Yep, so these are just the leftover. So those were from the final wave. We are going to be adding in kind of just some UI and UX changes to kind of illustrate more of what's going on within the sieges. So you'll kind of have like more pop-up stuff that you can kind of see right off the bat, just to make sure that you're actually getting the information that you can.
Yeah, I find burning these dead bodies are kind of relaxing. You just want to chill.
Well, you should actually, let me change it to nighttime because you can see how beautiful it looks at night.
Creating a monster over here.
Yeah, and if imagine if the fire spread to the base.
Well, one of the first things people are like, can you light thatch on fire? Can you do all these things? And it's like, those are great in theory. Like, I mean, if this was a single player game, that would be really nice. But when you have to do a lot of stuff with server performance in mind, it kind of limits you in a way where it's like you kind of have to find creative ways to do stuff. So I'm confident we'll come up with a way to kind of light multiple bodies at once, but it won't be something where it's like you make like a chain reaction where you start off over here and then all of a sudden you have like a line of them up there. But we'll come up with something good. And the good thing is we have a lot of creative people within the team, as well as within our community, and a good chunk of what we've actually implemented so far since the Kickstarter has actually been in thanks to them, and kind of showing us like certain things that we kind of either weren't thinking of at the time or something that we wanted to kind of create. But having players being able to push that and be like, hey, this would be great, and getting excited within our community is something that we're always looking forward to as developers.
Maybe to deal with these issues where we need to burn a lot of bodies, maybe make some, let's say, fire, I don't know, weapons where you can just shoot at them quickly and just burn it.
Just have a Molotov for the area
Yeah.
flames.
Yeah, I feel like Molotov would actually be. I'm gonna check our Discord and see if anyone has recommended anything like Molotov. But I do know that we want to start bringing in some custom assets that are focused on the kind of Hawaiian theme of the game, and making sure we do want to do a lot with like coconut husks and stuff. So it's going to be like you're going to be seeing stuff like um, coconut bikinis and like coconut armor and stuff like that. So definitely a lot of creative stuff that's going to be coming in. We do have coconut grenades.
Coconut Molotovs.
They're not polished enough at this point to kind of show off, but definitely something that's going to be fun once they're in and ready.
And how friendly is the game gonna be to PvE players? For example, can you just play the game only PvE and avoid PvP at all?
So currently the way we have it is stuff is separated through PvE zones and PvP. We're planning on offering PvE players and new players as best of an experience as possible, but we do need to balance stuff in some ways where we do want to kind of push certain players out of their comfort zone for specific things. It won't be everything. So a majority of what you're seeing will be kind of focused on offering the kind of refuge of a player being able to kind of have a base here. If they want to stick to PvE, they can harvest, they can go through the systems, they can come back here and they can store stuff here. But we're going to be looking at some balancing stuff to kind of just avoid kind of mega tribes and like other specific players from using just the PvE zone where they stash all their good loot, go to PvP, start raiding everyone, and then kind of come back and take what they have from there and kind of stashing it in a place that's safe. So a lot of balance considerations are going to be coming in where we're going to be looking at how to balance the PvP and PvE side. But we do, because of the RPG elements, want to make sure that we're giving them as much of a safe space where they can come in and play the game and enjoy a majority of the content without having to worry about logging in and spending 36 hours defending their base.
So I think one of the issues that with survival games in terms of PvP is that a lot of people are, survival games usually normally are a big time investment, and you have to grind resources, have to build base. It can take days to actually, to create a big base with a lot of resources. And if you're just gonna get raided and blow away, let's say, a few days of your time in PvP, this is one of the issues I found that a lot of survival gamers have. So what are the solutions? Are you planning just make them play in PvE zones, so you won't lose stuff, and just go to PvP zones, mainly just to fight other players?
So there's been some discussion on balancing stuff towards kind of offering PvP players kind of PvP specific gear, PvP specific ammo, so kind of stuff that kind of separates certain aspects of that. As far as balancing, I think it's going to be something that we constantly evaluate as we kind of gauge the pulse of the community and kind of what they want to expect and kind of the feedback based on that. Like I mentioned, we don't want it to be a situation where it's something that someone comes onto the game, spends 36 hours of their time, builds something, and kind of just gets it completely demolished. But also, we do want to kind of sometimes push players into playing in a certain way that they might not be comfortable with, but doing it in a way where it's like an opt-in, it's not a requirement. I think with the way that we're going to be doing that, it's going to be zone-wise, so it's like certain zones within the map will be done in a certain way where they're offered that freedom to play exactly what they want, and then having other areas where they could opt in to do certain things, and then using their investment to kind of making that determination on what they want to do is kind of important to us. I mean, our lead game designer is going to be spending a lot of time kind of making sure we balance things in a way where we want to create something where if a person does get into a position that they're getting rated, it's not something where it's like an Ark or Conan where it's like once you get rated in those games, it's like a lot of people quit because it's like they'll have days or months of investment into certain things and they don't have mechanics to kind of get you back up to speed. And it's like that's going to be one of the major things that we're looking into is how do we allow players to have those experiences, but then when they do suffer loss, kind of be able to kind of get back in and jump in and be able to have certain things, but not all things available to them in those situations. So it's going to be kind of an immense balancing act. But I mean, we love challenges. I mean, we've a lot of the members of our team are huge survival player fans, so it's like we're going to be implementing some really creative systems to address those things. We don't want it to be so much of a grind fest because it kind of becomes a contradiction of the other systems that we have in place. So it's going to be something where it's like a lot of our other core gameplay systems that we're going to be having throughout early access as well as full release is going to be making sure that we're adding in systems that complement each other and kind of allow players to kind of choose what they want to do, but also sometimes take risk and be able to kind of move outside of their comfort zone and benefit from doing stuff like that. But I feel like the main thing a lot of survival games are missing are options. So we're going to be spending a good amount of time just implementing stuff that other games haven't and kind of balancing it in a way that replayability value is there.